guys, it's Gamer Ahmer here. So today I wanted to go ahead and unbox some items that I just got in the mail. So a lot of these are actually related to the Nintendo 64. We even have a couple Nintendo Switch items, even some PlayStation items. So let's go ahead and check them out. Alright, so this first package right here is actually from a company called Limited Run Games. Now I actually ordered two of the same item. So if we just open up this envelope right here, we have a pretty sweet game. Now I've always had a lot of fun playing this series. This is Shantae and the Pirate's Curse, and this is a limited run game for the Nintendo Switch. Now this is definitely a pretty sweet game, and I actually ordered two so that I can keep one sealed. And it comes with this pretty sweet collectible card right here where we have this main character, Shantae, and we have all of these different characters in the background. This is actually a pretty sweet card that is included with all of their games. They try and model it after the actual game that's released. So if we go ahead and open up the game, you'll notice that we have this pretty sweet manual right here. So it says Shantae and the Pirate's Curse. Now with a lot of Nintendo Switch games, you don't actually get manuals and extras included. Usually these other companies are the ones who actually go ahead and add those. So here we have the story thus far. So it says a little bit of information about the game itself. We have some character art in here. So we have Shantae, Risky Boots. We have Uncle Mimic, Sky and Wrench, Bolo, Ammo Baron, Roddy Tops, Abner and Poe. And then we have some locations. So we have Saliva Island, Spiderweb Island, Tanline Island, and more. And then there's a bunch of items that are shown here. So this kind of shows you which items are actually in the game. And we have some more pirate gear here. So we have all of these different items along with this character. And there's some notes right here. So this is always a pretty neat bonus. And then along with the cartridge itself, we actually have this pretty cool artwork that's on the other side here. So I'll just slide that out. So we have a larger image of what appears to be on this actual trading card. So this is a pretty cool picture right here. So this is pretty sweet. And then this is the cover itself. And then next up, I actually have this pretty heavy package right here. I actually got it from a buddy of mine on Instagram. So we'll go ahead and open this up and see what's inside. Alright, so it looks like each item's actually wrapped up. So of course we have this pretty sweet controller right here. So this one is actually a Nintendo 64 controller. Now this is one of those third-party controllers, but it's called Joytech Controller Plus. And it has some turbo options on here. Now, if you've seen some of my collection, you'll know that I really enjoy the Nintendo 64, and I try to collect a lot of items for this console, and I try to collect as many different controllers as I can. Now I have found that one of my favorite controllers for the Nintendo 64 is definitely those Retro Fighters controllers, which I've talked about before, but I still like getting other third-party controllers to see if it's any more comfortable, and this one is definitely pretty sweet because it has this chrome aspect to it, so it reminds me a lot of the Fox Data controllers that I actually have in my collection, and there's actually 4 different colors of this controller, so I'm trying to collect all of them that I can find. So this is definitely a pretty cool controller. And then of course right here we have another one of the set that I had just shown. So this is another Joytech Controller Plus. Now this is a chrome blue color. So this one is definitely very similar to the Fox Data controllers that I have in my collection. And now I already have 2 out of the 4 colors for it. So I'll definitely have to try and find those to complete this set. And then on to another controller here. So this box is actually full of controllers. So this is a PlayStation controller. Now I haven't actually seen one of these before, so this is pretty sweet to have this one in my collection. So this one has tons of different turbo options up here, and it actually has turbo for each of these buttons right here, select, start, and slow. And then we have these turbo options as well for up here. So this is a pretty sweet PlayStation controller, and it's definitely an odd shape. It's circular, so it's not as comfortable as I thought it would be because it is a little bit stiff right here. But this is definitely a pretty sweet turbo option controller. And then next up we have this Hori PlayStation brand controller. So this one is definitely a lot smaller than I thought it would be. So this is a pinkish color. It kind of reminds me of that Sakura purple color that I have in the PlayStation 2. So this is a mini pad that would actually be really comfortable to play a lot of different fighting style games with. So I'll have to give that one a try. And there's these different button options up here. So it's just a smaller controller, and it's definitely compact and pretty comfortable. So this might be one of those controllers that I use for a lot of the fighting style games, and I'll have to give this one a go and see if it's actually worth it. And then of course up next we have this Boomerang 64 controller. Now this is one that I surprisingly did not have in my collection. It even says Newbie Boomerang 64 for the Nintendo 64. So this is pretty interesting style controller. Looks like your thumb just kind of taps those buttons, and then on this side you control this. And then in the middle we have the start, turbo, and slow buttons. And then on the back it rests pretty comfortably where your fingers just kind of lay right on these buttons here. So this is a pretty interesting style controller. There's even a port right here for the rumble and memory pack, so that's pretty sweet. then on to this Nintendo 64 controller. This one is one that you don't see every day. It definitely looks pretty interesting. It's the Alpha 64 by Nyko, and it has turbo and slow options on here. Start, there's these buttons on this side, the little D-pad, and then there are actually two joysticks. So this one is definitely a lot different than majority of the controllers that you see. So I'll have to try this one out, as it actually feels pretty comfortable in my hands, and your thumbs just hit the joysticks pretty well. It kind of has this curved part right here where it's actually kind of comfortable, and your fingers just kind of lay right onto these top buttons and back buttons right here. So it definitely has an interesting feel to it. It's actually pretty comfortable, and it's one that you don't see every day. There is even this part up here for the rumble and memory packs. So I'll have to give this controller a go and see if it's actually comfortable, and see how it feels when playing these games, and see if it's actually compatible with a lot of the style games. And then it looks like last we have this pretty awesome gun right here. So this is for the PlayStation and PlayStation 2, and it has all of the attachments right here. So this is the, looks like NAKI brand gun. It's definitely an interesting one, as it has this right here for some extra grip, and we have the trigger back here, and it looks like there's even a little scope right here with some sights in the rear. So this is pretty interesting, and it's definitely pretty cool looking light gun style controller, and I haven't seen one of these before, so this is definitely pretty sweet. I'll have to try this one out with some of my favorite light gun games. And then next up we have this box right here, so I'll just go ahead and open this one up. So this is definitely a pretty sweet item right here. Now, if you guys aren't familiar with this display piece, this is actually a legit licensed Nintendo 64 display item. Now, on the back here, you'll notice that there is some double-sided foam that is sticky on both sides. So this is actually something that would have been displayed around the Nintendo 64 era, and some of you guys may recognize this as an actual display piece that went on top of the World of Nintendo signs that they had that are around this size. So this would just be taped right onto the top part of the World of Nintendo signs that were used in the Nintendo era, and this was one that actually came after the Nintendo 64, so they would just go ahead and put this right on top of their old previous display signs. So this was something that was molded and created to go right on top of those previous displays. So this is definitely a pretty sweet display piece right there. And then this last box right here. So as you can tell, this is a large box. Just go ahead and show how long it actually is. So if we reach in here, we actually have this pretty sweet banner. So as you guys may have seen, I actually have a couple banners in my collection already. So this right here is another Nintendo 64 banner. This is the Star Wars Episode 1 for the Nintendo 64. It says 2 engines, 1 champion, no limits. So this I'll have to go ahead and get hung up and displayed in my collection, as this banner is pretty awesome and definitely a great display piece, as they even made a Nintendo 64 console box variant where it actually has this design and game on the front of the box. So as you can tell, I got some pretty great items in the mail. We have these Nintendo 64 related items. On this side, we have these two Joytech controllers, this Alpha 64 controller, the Boomerang 64 controller, this Nintendo 64 store display that went on top of the World of Nintendo, and this pretty sweet Nintendo 64 Star Wars Episode 1 Racer display. So this is definitely a pretty sweet store display item that I'm really excited to add to my collection. And these two Nintendo Switch games from Limited Run Games. We have this Shantae and the Pirate's Curse. So that is a pretty fun and interesting game that I'm really excited to play, as I love the Shantae series. Along with these PlayStation controllers, we have the PlayStation Gun and the PlayStation Turbo controller, along with the Hori Mini PlayStation controller. So overall, I'd say that I had some great mail call items, and I'm really excited to add these to my collection, try them out, and put these on display. So thank you guys for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe. Go ahead and check out my other videos, and stay tuned for more.